Again, thanks once again for being here. Today's session is going to be on product service pricing. So how do we price our products? Sorry. Sorry about that. So how do we price our products? I have encountered too many small businesses where just across business operations, numbers are being pulled out of thin air. So sometimes we're leaving money on the table. Sometimes we're driving customers away. And neither of those two things are good for us. So pricing is typically a strategy. So we're going to start off. I'm going to start off this morning by asking a few of the businesses here. And you could understand my bias at times. There's certain people who speak up a lot, so I remember them quite well. This is why I encourage participation from everyone. So let's start with Wayne. And I'm going to ask first, Wayne, what is your vision for your barbecue sauce company? And how did you come up with your pricing strategy for your barbecue sauce? Okay.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hearing you loud and clear.
Good. Okay, so you asked what is the vision for my list?
What is the vision and how did you come up with the pricing strategy?
All right, so let me tell you exactly how I actually have it worded. Because I actually have a vision statement and I have a mission statement. And
okay.
my vision is to define Articulate as a brand, maintaining our passion for the taste and the affordability for every consumer of our product.
Did you say every consumer?
Yes.
Okay.
Every consumer of our product. When it came to pricing, I did a course in pricing of products and so forth to some extent, but I individually look at all the prices, the cost, electricity, water, all these things. I put them together. I then work out what costs for raw materials, what it costs to make a batch, what is the cost of the bottles, covers, shrink bags, everything individually. Then I put them all together, and then I will put a markup onto the end cost of the product.
Excellent. Anyone else? I'm looking for volunteers now. So Wayne led the way. Let me have some others. How did you price your products? First, what is the vision for your company? And how did you price your products?
Hi, good morning. Pringles here.
One, Sharon?
Hi. Oh, it's LaFleur, her daughter.
Oh, LaFleur. All right.
Yes. So our vision is to become a household name. How we came up with our prices is that we got our cost and then we put in basically what the guy with the barbecue sauce did, right? But then we also went around and checked, like on the supermarket shelves, the competitors' prices, so that we could have an idea also of how to price our products, how it would do on the supermarket shelf, or what price it would sell for on the supermarket shelf.
Okay, wonderful. Shavani, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly.
Hi, good morning. Yes,
Go
can you hear
ahead.
me? Shivani.
Okay, go ahead.
Just like the last speaker, my vision is to be a household name and also to change the face of how people view vegan food. Because most people, when they have vegan food, their face is like, ugh, until they taste it and they realize it's something that is very tasty and you don't even have to be vegan to eat vegan snacks. So my vision is to become a household name for everybody, um, to enjoy good good food that can be enjoyed by vegans as well. And the way that I did my pricing, I worked with a professional where we went through the costing of my product, my raw materials, my equipment, utilities, etc. And we added our markup. I added the markup, and we put in the best price that would suit the product and the company.
Okay, wonderful.
That's it.
Jan?
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I run a predominantly service-oriented business, and so there tends to be two schools of thought around establishing pricing when you're in a service business, dependent on what it is. So I run a waste management education and training, and so the two schools of thought that I have, and I have applied both, is one is time based and one is deliverable based. So, but however, there are some things that can take a shorter time, but because of my years of being in the industry, I've been in the industry for 17 years. It kind of, what's the word? It kind of, people, there's a thing where people, if you want it fast or if you want good quality kind of thing. So as a service business, it's always, I find, it's always a ticklish area to develop one kind of pricing. It really depends on what the specific service is, and I guess the valuation of the amount of work that has to be done. So it's not just okay, these are my raw materials, these are the cost of the raw materials, this is the cost of the packaging, this is how much this is the percentage profit margin that I want to make, and so this is the price I will charge. As a service, it's always, I find it's always I still feel I'm always in a back and forth about pricing, to be honest, because it really depends on what I'm being asked to provide. Sometimes it's based on how many hours I'm asked to be there. Sometimes it's based on, okay, what do you want at the end of this? Is it a physical report or something? And then I will charge for the report. So it really depends. That's why I raised my hand, because I wanted to bring that point up.
Yeah, pricing in the service industry could become complicated, right? But at some point you have to establish, well, what is the minimum rate that I'm willing to work for based on the task, right? In the service industry.
Right, I've done that. So I've established, like, okay, this is my minimum, and then I would build on this based on what the request is. Yeah.
Right, but what is your process for coming to that minimum charge? Let's say whether it's an hourly rate or what.
Normally my go-to is the amount of time it will take, which is an hourly rate. Yeah.
Okay.
So if it's a consultation, or if it's or if it's another service, then I would say, okay, how long would it take me to come up with this, plus my years of experience, plus, and then that is what I would use to come up with my final base figure that I build on.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Or Janil?
Can I ask a question here, Gilbert of Sean?
Oh, go ahead, Leighton.
Yeah, Sean.
Sorry,
Yeah, Sean. Whenever you're pricing your customers, do you use a quotation? Do you normally send them like a quote with the different areas of your pricing broken down?
I have developed exactly that. I call it a rate card, where I have this is the base, but after having a consultation call, then I would know, okay, you need a little bit more than what you're thinking. So when I normally provide quotations for services, it's after having a consultation call and developing, okay, this is how much it will take, this is how much time it will take, this is the required deliverable, this is how much effort I would have to put in, and or a staff member might have to put in, and then I develop the quotation based on that. So it's been, I don't know if I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be, but that is what it has been so far. So I use the rate card, but it depends on what the request is, and then I will say, well, here are my rates. So so I use speaking, for example, I use speaking as a method, as a lead magnet for my consultancy services. So for that, I would say, okay, here's my speaking fee, right, which is a flat rate. So it really, so there are things that I have flat rates for, and then there are things that only after I have a conversation with the person that's making the request, then I could develop the appropriate pricing.
Right. Tell me something. Do you find yourself also having to create solutions for your customers when there is a lot of ambiguity around what the customer wants?
Yes, and more yes. A lot of the work that I do is a customizable service. So there is no one specific solution for any one person. Yeah.
So Sean, let me just pause it there. Because I have a similar. So in my business, just to share, in my business, so my company is called Get Paid Group, right? And we're focused 100% on helping companies to sell their products and services anywhere. Sorry, sell their products and services online and service their customers anywhere, anytime. So, you know, the type of service that I provide is really focused a lot on digital transformation. And as you can imagine, the needs of different businesses are very, very varying, far and wide. Also, I may find instances where someone comes to me, Leighton, we want to build out an e-commerce system, but for them, they don't really know what is involved in an e-commerce system. Just like many of you, you know, you're coming to learn what it takes to put this thing together, you know? So there's a lot of things that maybe the customer don't know, and also some of the things that we, right? So what we've done in the past is to create standardized solutions that are basic out the box. So if somebody comes and wants just a standard basic offering, we can sell it repeatedly without having much persons to create these quotations, because whenever it is any specialist to create the quotation automatically, it adds a bottleneck to your process, where if that person is out sick that day, they can't push out any quotations. They get where I'm coming from, because they need that specialized expert. And if that expert is you as a business, then it keeps you in the weeds of your business, and you're hardly ever operating at the management level, and you're more you're hardly ever operating at the executive level, but you're more operating at the management level in your business. So you're working in your business and you're working on your business. Right? That's something that so I recommend standardizing as best as possible, and then having you brought in whenever there is customized requests. But on the matter of pricing, what I have found is that the easiest thing from a service-oriented business, because a lot of times services include the use of products as well, right? So have a rate sheet, establish a rate sheet to the customer. You know, you have your standard prices for your products, and then you have a cost for time. spent on the particular project. So if it is that this project is include the use of um, let's say some bins for agriculture, right? Waste management, right? They have to use some bins and you have to have somebody spend X amount of time on a project. What I would say is that put a price to every single deliverable on the project as it relates to items that need to be provided, and also put a cost for your man hours. Mark that up, and then from there you can grow it. Like, one of my biggest challenges is always, and I was actually going to ask Gilbert, so Gilbert, maybe you can address this as part of your response to persons. One of my biggest challenges is that, you know, when you're operating in an industry where the pricing is subjective to the value that you're providing to the customer, sometimes the value is perceived in different ways by different customers. So a small business will see a quotation for something, which is really an investment for say 2,000 US, and think that, boy, this is really expensive because I simply cannot, I don't have the money to afford it. But a very large business with making millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars will see 2,000 US and wonder if it is providing enough value. You know, if I go to somebody with a certain size contract or a certain price point, I won't get the job because they will feel like that's a novice price point. You get where I'm coming from? So in other words, you could easily price your product on the high scale and also on the low scale. How do you choose when and how to price the products that you get the contract is something that I'm still trying to figure out, and something that, you know, is done on a case by case basis. But at the end of the day, we as businesses, we want to get the most, we want to sell our products at the highest price as possible, and sell as much volumes as possible. Gilbert, how do we do that? It's a question that I'll pose to you. As it relates to Sean, I would say itemize every single deliverable that you're gonna do. If you're gonna lift up something, move from point A to point B, don't leave it out because that's a cost, right? So itemize everything that you do. If it's a physical product, have a rate sheet. If it's a time-based product, have a rate sheet for time. And keep in mind as well that you have different resources at different capabilities, which also bring different levels of value. So you don't need to price everybody the same price. You can have different pricing for different types of resources. So you have someone who is a consultant who's going to be different from somebody who is just executing. All right, so these are some things to consider. Back to you, Gilbert.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for that input, Clayton. Janelle.
I'm loving these questions because this is my present reality. I think I'm probably the baby in this group. My business was launched 6 months ago, right? My business was launched because of
what's the name of your business? What's the vision?
Right.
Okay.
I train small business owners in financial softwares that can help them. Primarily at this point, I started off with QuickBooks, all right? And one of the things when I started off, when I got certified, I just chose my price based on the trainings that I did and what I paid. I just did it like $20 less than them. That was what I did. That was how I chose my price. And then when I was doing the trainings, because I was training persons from every island within the region, and they're all online trainings. While I was doing the trainings, I realized I provide more service than where I was taught. And the reason why I started the training was to do exactly that, to provide an additional service that those who were training us were not doing, because I saw the need. But then I found myself wondering, okay, how should I price it now, right? Would it be too much? Would it be too little? And when 2023 started, right, I had frozen everything to launch back live trainings in March 2023. So I'm right now about to reissue my flyers, and I'm here like, okay, Gianni, what are you going to do? So when you guys are asking about pricing, I'm like, this is exactly where I'm at. That's all I wanted to say. I'm like a bit stumped. I have a price I'm going to put, but I'm still kind of like, okay, Janelle, is this, what do you feel? So that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Janelle. I like that honest unfolding. Wayne, you had your hand up again? Okay, go ahead.
Can I say something based on the young lady that spoke just after I had spoke about price, when she says that she looks at the market and she goes and look at the shelves and see what they have, and she bases her price on that. But then if she's doing that, when she does her raw materials and she incorporates all of her utility costs and so forth, she may find that she's actually underselling and she's actually operating at a loss. Like here in Barbados, the barbecue sauces that are on the shelves imported from outside, because they can access raw materials and they can operate in larger volumes and quantities, they're a lot cheaper. So I can't go into supermarket shelf, look at their pricing and say, oh, well, I can do mine just to compete with them. So I just want to say that's something you have to be very careful of. You have to look at your individual costing and see what it costs you. Then you can look at what is a reasonable markup. And also what you have to do is to make sure that, like me, I know the taste of my particular product, and that's why I offer it as a premium quality. So I try to explain it this way. In Barbados, we have Sandy Lane on the west coast, and we have Rockley on the south coast. And there are people who will go to Rockley on the south coast and they'll pay that price because that's what they want. Sandy Lane is premium quality, so they can go down there, they can pay what Sandy Lane. So I do the same thing. My barbecue sauce is a premium quality. I'm not saying it's the best in the to you, it's the best to me. And I'm offering you a premium quality product that I know you'll love, and this is what you have to pay for it. You see, so while yes, you have to gauge yourself and not outprice yourself, you still have to be realistic and make sure that you're not operating at a loss at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges of competitive pricing, right? As Marlon was pointing out before, I'm trying to remember who it was. Is this Shivani who was talking about the competitive prices and cost-based pricing? So Wayne, I know yours is cost-based pricing and competitive pricing. So Shivani, I think, was doing a combination of both. One of the challenges of that is when you're looking at the competitive prices, that competitor might have a better economies of scale than you do. So they're able to lower the price of their product. That company might have a better market position in terms of branding than you do. So they could price differently. So it's something that you have to be very, very careful with when you step into the idea of competitive pricing, because there's a lot of information that you're not privy to. Unless, and even if the company is a public traded company where, you know, a lot of their numbers are available to the public, you're still not sure what underhand deals are taking place, what allows them to get to those prices. Andrea.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
And this is this I think is the Achilles heel of the Caribbean, and especially of small businesses. I think our inability to price. I mean, I'm looking for the day when Caribbean Export develops a certification or a certificate program for pricing, just pricing for services, for goods and so on, or pricing strategy versus pricing policy, or pricing plan, you know, or pricing workbook, Excel spreadsheets to the max, no software, just raw Excel and our exercise book. I'm eager to see that someday, because sometimes sales are low, not because we don't have a great product, not because our entrepreneurs or founders and brand leaders are really good at what they do, but it's because the pricing is off. And I want to say I agree. For what it's worth, I agree with much of what has been said, except I believe you can determine. My sister who said that she chose a strategy to take $20 off. Yeah, man, I believe in it. You can lose in order to win, in order to dominate. You can lose for a spell, just suffer for a little in order to bust, and it can work. And as long as you can financially make that sacrifice. So I actually love that risk. This is a part of being a founder. You do what you do. You do what you need to do to get where you want to go. And I love that. And then when you're in, and now she starts to find that hey, this is my value proposition. She starts adding, and she says, okay, there's the math of it, which really belongs in an exercise book or an Excel spreadsheet with a calculator, where you do say, all right, so if this is what is attracting effective demand, real demand, people are willing to pay, willingness to pay is real. And once you have developed evidence of that willingness to pay, you divide it into some units that make sense, whether it is number of days, number of hours, and so on. And you then say, okay, so there the average cost per unit is bam. And then you start pricing based upon that price per unit that has attracted, that has demonstrated willingness to pay. And you move from there to the point where you even start, you get your branding out and you start saying, okay, I'm trusted. And you have evidence of that. You start doing some surveys, okay, more evidence, and you keep moving. You start your social media buckets and start throwing things out there to say some stats. 80%, even if it's 2 people, even if it's 4 people you have, 80% of our participants say bam, bam, bam about us, rate us as excellent. And that in itself starts subliminally raising your rate and so on. And yes, I believe on the back end, there is this little angel that's crunching the numbers. And keep measuring when you get to break even, when you get past your break even, and when you keep moving to being able to make super profits or profits and super profits. So that's my take on pricing and costing.
Thanks for that contribution, Andrew, as usual. Ivan.
Hello, good morning. Ivan Joseph here from Veggie Choices Inc. in Barbados. I want to also lend my 2 cents as well to the issue of pricing and small business. I understand what the previous participant, where she's going, but I'm kind of concerned as to whether or not the issue of a certification program specifically for pricing goods, will actually solve our problem as a small business, especially in the matter of export. We've seen the travails of
No.
I'm not hearing. Is it me?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Seems
think
he dropped
Ivan dropped off. Yeah, because he's unmuted, but we're just not hearing him.
Okay. Which country?
He
I'm not
didn't mention he
entirely
was
sure.
from Barbados.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Looking forward.
All right, Ivan, when you come back on, just let us know. Anyone else? There are a few other businesses here. Don't be shy. This is the space. This is the time.
Hi, morning, everybody. My name is Edmond Sego from Belize. My business name is Streetside Stores. Streetside is we aspire to.
We deliver.
Yes. Yeah, delivery app that's here in the Caribbean. It's a delivery system actually. So we handle multiple facets of delivery, on demand and domestic delivery. And yeah, well, right now we have a couple of ways that we do pricing. So for the drivers, right now we're outsourcing drivers, which is expensive, but we have a fee for them. Then we have a fee that's charged on a monthly basis, like a subscription for our merchants. In addition to a small percentage for the merchants, and for the customers, they get to pay for we still charge for delivery. And that's basically how we make our bottom line on the day-to-day. Yeah, we're looking at service fees in the near future, but the infrastructure isn't there yet to accommodate that because of the way we get paid. It's difficult to charge service fees via cash for food delivery. But it was, if everything was contactless, it would be easier.
Right. Without, it's the idea here, right? So I understand what you're charging. I get that. I get charges. What what I'm trying to get to is how did you come up with those charges? So you charge a percentage. How did you get to what that percentage is? You pay the drivers a fee. How did you come to the point of, this is what that service is worth? What were the calculations?
Okay.
If you can say that without revealing any of your business secrets, that's
Okay.
great. But I'm just looking for a process that
Are you
I'm
looking
trying
for
to
the
understand the
process?
process, right? How did you get to that? I'm going to get into a lot of this stuff after because this stuff works, right? Everything that everyone is doing here works. It may not work efficiently. But as you move into an online world, you may find that I have got to make adjustments, right? And what are the adjustments that are necessary? So hence, I'm trying to understand the process. If you understand the process of how you get to that price, your current pricing, then you could
Yes.
understand the adjustment that has to be made, what has to be catered for if I'm doing sales in an online world.
Okay.
So that's what I'm driving at. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear earlier. But the
Understood.
idea is you need, as a business, you need to understand your processes across the board. But today we're trying to get to the process of how you get to pricing. How do I charge? What price did I get to so that I can charge my customers or my subs, whoever it is, right? So that's the process that I'm trying to understand.
Okay. For mine, it was I got a lot of it from market research, and I just tailored the price to be something local. So it was a bunch of percentages that I had written down on paper, things that it would cost and the market price currently, defined in the country, and that was how I got my prices.
Okay, wonderful. So you did some market research, and then you
Yes.
tailored based on your market.
Yes.
Right. Hence, when I asked the first question, what is the vision for your company and your products, right? So you have got to start identifying who are my customers? What is my market? And I know Leighton is going to get into that, a lot more of that, of how you define your market, how you funnel them, right? So my thing is, how do you price to cater to that market? Hence the vision question and then your pricing question, because you have to understand both. All right. Thanks, Edmund. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Kathy Ann.
Good morning, everyone. This is a topic that I struggle with, so I'm very glad that we're going to be discussing it because I make and sell clothing, and
Okay.
one of my, pardon?
I said, okay, that's great.
Oh, okay. So one of my strategies right now is to check the market and see what the items are going for, and then base my price according to that, which does not really work very well because then the market is getting items from somewhere where it's mass produced. And when I see some of the prices, I can't compete with that because I'm actually making the clothing myself. And I'm in Barbados, which means we don't have a lot of raw materials. So we have to get from overseas, which means that then there is duties added and what's not. So it definitely has been a struggle. And I remember hearing one of my fellow colleagues, well, from the island, say that he compares it with Sandy Lane as opposed to Rockley. But then when there's so many other things out there, how do you manage in the business to have a competitive but realistic price? So I'm very glad and eager to hear what is going to be said today in terms of this. And I think that's it for me.
Thanks for that contribution, Kathy. And Mina.
Hello, good morning. Hear me?
Morning, Mina.
I am from Guyana and my business is BNR product. My part is about my challenges is about my product is satwa. We do an indigenous flour. You hearing me?
Hearing you?
Yeah. Yes, we do an indigenous flour, and my problem is really in Guyana we have fluctuated of price value. We have a system in Guyana where sometimes you have rainfall, the price gone up. When it's too much of sun, the price still gone up. There's certain way in which we cannot control the price market, right, in Guyana. Beans also, and I also do dry seasoning. So the market price is very, very challenging for me. I'm so glad that I am in this program so I can able to grab some knowledge and experience towards helping me to balance my market price. I don't know how I will be able to get through into the market system. And right now, my vision is really to get my license, which will be very soon from now. I will get my food and drugs license to export or to expand my business in the country and out of Caribbean.
Thanks, Mina. Appreciate the contribution. April. April, you're not coming through clearly at all. No, there's a feedback. Okay, April. You there still? Yeah, we're having some audio problem coming from your side, April. You're gonna have to fix that and and get back to us. Roland, you have your hand up again?
Yes, I concerning the prices. Well, I'm Roland Benjamin from Grenada. Concerning the pricing, a couple years ago, one of my a business out of the region that I used to work with, one of the things that they had encouraged me to do is to consider all the tools and equipment that I used in producing my product or my item. So I mean, I just want to say this, for those who are involved in in production and uses equipment and so on. So that is one of the things that you must take into consideration in pricing your work, the tools and equipment that you use. Well, as a visual artist, what I do or I price my product is that I take into consideration, the art market things based on the type of work you do after a time, the value of it increased, right? But in the process of making products and art, manufacturing art, I take into consideration the material, the kind of material that I used, the equipment and tools. I also look at the value of work, right across the board internationally. And I also take into consideration the labor that is involved and miscellaneous. So I say miscellaneous, you're talking about things like, well, I put under that experiences and years of practice that you involve in your profession. Okay, so I take that into consideration. And well, in my case, the size of the work, is important also. And then I put my markup and come up with my final price and so on. So the size of the item is very important. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Roland. Roland, your business, as everybody, and I'm sure most of the guys you probably remember, your business is very unique, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, so someone like you, I would always advise, you can't please everyone all the
Yeah,
time.
that's true.
Your market is a very niche market. You produce a one-of-a-kind product, so your pricing would be along the luxury line price.
Yeah, that's true also.
Right. So sometimes, and again, I'm going to show these in examples, right? So with somebody like you, it's that vision. Who is my market? What is my plan for my product? Who am I trying to sell this to? And building your brand around that. So your costing objective is usually, someone like your costing objective is usually built, yes, on some costing, but mainly on my branding. And I'll show you that. I'll show you some of that stuff coming up. And Andrea, I know you'll be very excited. I have all the spreadsheets that I'm going to share with everyone. You plug in your numbers and it's going to give you price based on what pricing strategy or pricing model you choose to use. So, so go ahead, Roland.
Just one thing. What you said is true. I also take that into consideration to the luxuriousness of the nature of my work and the branding. And I will also, I'm very intrigued in listening to what you have to contribute to that.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna give you an example, right? I have a couple of clients that I work with over the years. One of them made sandals. I think I shared a story before. The sandals, they were not sandals. They're literally art that you put on your feet. It's just absolutely beautiful. What he did, the designs that he would put on the leather, these are leather sandals. And he was selling them on Flatbush, right? And he's selling them on Flatbush, I think it was like $75 a piece, and everybody was backing. It's ridiculous. You can't sell these here at this price. And I hooked him up with a friend of mine who was a salesperson for one of the luxury stores here in New York, Bloomingdale's. Got his sandals into Bloomingdale's, selling at $500 and something a piece, and they could not keep them on the shelf. So here he was struggling. And his problem was not pricing. His problem was positioning. Yeah, it was a bit of pricing and positioning. Wrong place. So you got to look at your market. You got to look at your vision for your product and your company. What am I trying to do? Who am I trying to sell this to? Who can afford to buy my products? What value at the end of the day? This is one of my mantras. It's value. We're always selling value. We're selling value and we're selling experiences. And if you think of your products and your pricing around value and experiences, it reduces the risk of you underpricing or overpricing your product, right? We have April, are you back? Are you able to contribute now? Not much better, April, not much better. I'm sorry. All right, so Andrea, I see you have your hand up, and then I'm going to jump into pricing.
Okay, I won't be long. I agree with your point 100% about the positioning. I'd like to add one more point too. For the luxury line, if you'd like to remain relevant in the low price or economy market, you can create a sub-brand and may not even link the two brands. You know, people don't even know that they're connected, and you have this economy line. So, and that would help you with data. You could use that market to gather data on what a particular lower price market want, and how can you, that's it for me.
Thanks, Andrea. I really appreciate the contribution. I see, hold on one second. Shakrib, hands up.
Yes. Hi, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much. My internet is a little unstable this morning, so I kept getting
Yeah, I
dropped off.
saw that in the chat. I was so sorry to
Right.
see that. Yeah, go
No
ahead.
problem, no problem. So I'm back in. So I just want to flag, if you can consider us as well, because we are, multiple products, multiple vendors on the platform, multiple, people are pricing at different levels. So do we need to, so I'm awaiting your guidance, right? But just consider that we are in the grouping, we're a platform that has many different vendors with different price points, with different products. So just for us to find, what is the best way forward? And I like where you're going in terms of this value, positioning, and experience. So thank you so much. We're here.
Yeah, so I could always speak to platforms because as you, we run a platform as well, very similar, but our pricing are not are based on not necessarily, and we don't dictate how our vendors sell or what they sell for. Yes, they come to us for guidance and we provide that guidance, right? But in terms of their pricing, that's their thing. In terms of how we as a platform or how you as a platform charge for the services that you are providing, that's another complete different mechanism. It all depends on depth of service that you're providing to them. In terms of, is this a front-facing platform where I'm just listing products and I'm taking care of all of the other stuff? Let's say the logistics, the payments and all that other stuff. And what is my markup on top of those things? That becomes a very relatively simple solution. But in terms of getting involved in the vendor's pricing, for me, it's too much of a risk. I do not want to take on that risk as a platform to try and determine your prices. So that's it. But let's jump into pricing. I'm going to attempt to share my screen now. You guys let me know if you can see what I'm sharing. I'll start with a spreadsheet. Oh, so the first slide is value and pricing. We are always selling experience and value. All right. Let me try to break this down. I am see Wendy Nichols. Wendy, you want to make a contribution or you're unmuted by accident?
No, I'm sorry. I'm unmuted by accident. Yes, sorry.
All right, all good, all good. Yeah, so we are constantly selling experience and value, right? I'm one of the worst persons to try to market to. I don't buy anything unless there's an absolute need for it. All right, I am not going to go out and buy a pair of jeans because I saw it on television. Not me. I'm not going to go out and buy a shirt because I saw it. No, when my jeans are finally ripped to pieces and I could no longer walk out in public feeling confident about myself, I get rid of that pair of jeans. But I just mentioned something there in that sentence. How I feel as I walk out into public, confident, right? That's one of the biggest selling points in experiences. One client runs a dental firm. And for years, it's all about coming to the dentist, about hygiene, about your dental experience. Right? At the end of the day, in my conversation with this dentist, was the experience that one of your patients is coming in for is not hygiene, right? It's confidence, a bright smile. You could walk out into the world feeling more confident about how you look when you have a smile. And that caused them to change the entire name of the business around smiling. When you go to let's say you go to the optometrist, and the optometrist or ophthalmologist, and they recommend a pair of glasses for you, and you walk into the glasses shop and you're looking for a pair of glasses. For you, for your optometrist or for your ophthalmologist, it's about your vision. But for you, you're walking into that space, it's about your vision and how does this pair of glasses make me look, how it makes me feel. If not, we will just pick up anything. We pick up the cheapest thing, we put it on our face and we keep it moving. about that experience. And there's a value tied to that experience. So when we look at, I'm going to go back to Roland, and Roland is producing these very unique products. He obviously takes joy in producing these, takes his time. So there's a value built into that. And there's a transference of value in luxury items for someone like Roland. And he moved that product from his production space into the hand of somebody who's receiving it. When this person receives this particular thing that Roland created, there's a certain joy that comes with that. It's not the fact that they could actually write in it, but the fact that somebody brought in this something that this unique, this beautiful, one of a kind, or a collection of them, a limited amount made, and I have one. It's not the fact that I could write in this. This is not just a diary. This is not, no. This is actually a work of art that is mine. And it produces an air with it. That's what you're selling. You're not selling shirts. You're not selling dresses. You're not selling shoes. You're not selling lipsticks. You're not selling food. I had another client here in New York, a vegan restaurant. But every time you go there, the line is through the door. And everybody is disgruntled on that line. They're pissed, but they're there. There's one sign that he needed to put up. I said, here's the sign that you're going to put up. Good food isn't rushed. Everybody stop on the line and they're humble because there's good food inside. The experience changed. All right. So we constantly selling experiences and values. Stop thinking of the products as just products. It allows you to position yourself properly in your market. One of the things I asked, the first question I asked was your vision. You have to understand, what is your vision? Take the time. It may sound like something trivial, something, and the vision isn't always permanent. It's changing, it's evolving. But it has got to evolve based on your value of yourself and the product that you're producing. Any questions? Are you guys understanding what I'm saying? Any feedback? Okay.
I have some feedback here, Gilbert. I love where you're going with this.
Go on.
To be honest, I've never thought about the experience part of pricing. In my business, it emphasizes a lot on value. But the more and more I think about what you're saying, I realize how much of a strong role experience plays in even the perceived value, So that's very powerful right there. And even I think about, again, I was just running on some examples here locally, and right over my mind ran on 2 examples I want to share. One of them is this family. There are some rich families in Jamaica who own majority of the things here. And one of them owns this entity called Bashco, which is kind of a replica of Costco in the US. I don't know if Costco still exists in the US, but they came out with Bashco as a replica of Costco. They're selling cheap items, very cheap items at the lowest possible price, and they're located downtown. But the same family owns another business called Mega Mart, which is kind of like a Walmart version uptown. They both sell the exact same things. Shopping experience is absolutely the opposite of each other. And the one downtown sells things that rock bottom price. One uptown sells the very same, exact same thing. Like no deviation, no add-on, no additional value. Just the shopping experience is better. And they sell it at 3 times the amount of money uptown. I also remember a store in downtown Kingston where a Chinese family owns the store, and they have 2 stores selling the exact same things side by side to each other, named differently, but the layout, the presentation, is exactly the same. Like you could almost walk into the other one, not knowing which one you went into. The only reason why you'll know which one is in, sorry, which one you're in, is because in one of the stores, there are only Chinese people manning the floor, and in the other store, it's only Black people manning the floor. And they do this because in downtown Kingston, there is people have different perception towards the Chinese, and people who are pro-Chinese, I always see them as offering bargains and good value. Will always go to the Chinese store, and those who hate the Chinese will go to the Black man store, not knowing that both stores are owned by the same Chinese people. So whatever they buy from the Black cashier or the Chinese cashier, still buying from the same family. But the experience of shopping, as I said, going into the store, seeing the Chinese people you don't like, come out and go over to the Black store, buy from the same people. It's the exact same thing. So it's very interesting how experience impacts pricing and even perceived value.
Thanks, Leighton. Terry, I didn't think you were the shy type, so that you're keeping your conversations in the chat here. You have valuable information. You should be sharing it with everyone. All right. So here, I can give you guys another example. I'm a consultant here, mostly for government agencies. If I'm offering my service, if my services are being delivered in Manhattan, prices are different than if my services are being offered in Brooklyn. When I work with small businesses in New York, they're usually African American and Caribbean-owned small businesses. I typically don't charge for this service. Terrible idea. I would not advise this to anyone, right? Because often your service is not valued. But I see the need for the support in my community, so I deliver. But prices are usually very different. If I'm designing a cabling infrastructure for a business in Brooklyn, I would charge, let's say, for example, it's $125 a drop in Brooklyn. If I go to Manhattan and I tell a business in Manhattan, it's $125 a drop, they think this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's wasting my time. I have to come in at maybe $375, $500 a job before they consider my price, before they consider hiring me. So again, based on where you are, your prices are different. Yeah, any other contributions? Or should we roll on?
I'd just like to touch sorry, I'll be done soon. I'm addressing the Jamaican cultural issue about the Chinese versus.
Thanks. I was going to touch it. I was going to touch it, Andrea, but then I said, let me leave it alone. Go ahead.
No. I never miss an opportunity to touch race in Jamaica. So, let me just get to the root cause. The root cause is not so much the race difference. It is about the perception of having cheap, not inexpensive or economical, low quality. So you end up not making a wise decision in the Chinese store, because once you get home and the initial newness is gone, you have lost your money. 1 or 2 use of the product and it's gone. And that is the issue, the lack of trust and having real repeat evidence of losing your money after the purchase. So not necessarily race.
Thanks again. So we're going to pricing analysis.
Is that just common to Jamaica, or is it throughout the region as well and other places?
It's common.
No, I don't know. I'm just speaking what I know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's common in a lot of places.
Exactly. That was my thinking as well. Okay.
There are some other hands up, Gilbert.
Okay, 1 second. I can't see the hands because of how I am. Tamara, I was waiting to see when you're going to jump in.
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
I am doing well. Thanks. So I think, this is a target audience conversation that we're having as well too, right? Because the right target audience pays for the experience, and
Correct.
they pay for the right price, and they're not they're not looking at pricing, they're looking at the value in that experience. And in the Caribbean, I mean, Jamaica, Trinidad, right? I've been to events that are VIP, VVVIP, extra exclusive VIP, and we're paying for these levels of things in the Caribbean, and the right target audience pays for all those things. So I think there is
Absolutely.
an opportunity there. And then as businesses, I think one of the other things we have to do is, once we identify our target audience and understand the type of money they're making and willing to spend, we also have to do a good job of getting out of our customers' pockets, because sometimes we are pricing ourselves based on what we think, and it's possibly we're looking at the wrong target. We're thinking what they have in their pockets. We kind of have to remove ourselves from that and make sure we're looking at the right niche, at the right target audience. And also, based on some of the people that have talked today, from a service standpoint, if you're creating a product, if you're working with vendors, understanding that many of the products and services that we have in the Caribbean are really second to none. And that comparison that we're doing with the competitors overseas, really looking at that quality to understand the value. And Gilbert, you talked about the messaging and the marketing, right? Because that all takes it to the next level. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents in there.
Yeah, and you're so right when it comes to looking at competitive prices. One of the things I mentioned a while ago. I'm sorry, my apologies. I cannot remember the young lady from Barbados who make dresses. And you go into the store and you compare it to other dresses. No, that's that. If they're not as the same quality as yours, do not make the comparison. The quality of the material may be less. So what you have to now do is, as Tamara was just saying, who is my target market? Is it the same? It's obviously not going to be the same person that is buying that particular dress. But I'm going to give, again, messaging, Tamara. Terry, I'm going to come to you, promise. And hold on 1 second. And Ayola, I'm going to come to you guys in a second. I remember being out in Arizona doing smart home designs. So we did a smart home design for a client. The neighbor came over and saw it. The neighbor was like, we'd like to get, you guys do audio video stuff? It's like, yeah. So, great, come on. We'd like for you guys to do this for us. So we bought the television, we bought the video player, and we'd like to get this installed. It's like, no, we don't do that type of work. You say, well, what do you guys do? So we do whole home audio-visual smart home designs. Say, how much does that cost? You say, well, the one that we just did was about $125,000. It's like, nah, man, my wife would not go for that. And the wife was like, definitely, I'm not going to go for that. The wife goes inside. They say, this husband said, let me speak to my wife privately for a second. They go inside, have a conversation, and he comes back. He's like, okay, we're going to do it under one condition. I said, what's the condition? He said, my wife needs a television in the ceiling of a bathroom. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you have to put a television in the ceiling of the bathroom for my wife. Point to the story is, messaging is very important. How we sell the stuff is very important. Initially, this is a client that we didn't expect to have. They're home, they approached to us, they just wanted a TV and a VCR installed, that type of stuff. But the fact that we were able to go over exactly what we did with the other client, show them a layout, show them how all this function, immediately, we would not, if first we were looking at, Tamara was saying, we were looking at their pocketbook and we were making a judgment and saying these people cannot afford our services, but they actually could, based on how we sell them that service. All right, Terry, go ahead.
Hi. Morning.
Good
Great.
morning.
Hi, great conversation. So one of the things I was thinking of with the comparison with like the 2 stores, right? I think that's also like a really good way of split testing your market of like who's going in which store. And I was thinking of that in terms of wholesaling, right? Because as I make products, I wholesale to retailers. And then I have very little control over their pricing structure. I know like certain retailers will price higher than others depending on, who they are, their target market and everything. But my wholesale price pretty much remains the same. And I don't really have control over my final pricing. But then certain customers will come back and say, oh, but why is it so much more expensive there than here, as if I am doing it, So that's one thing I sort of have to consider. And then another thing is about the idea of placement, is that I recently approached a store, is a franchise store. I sell in 2 other franchises, and it's another island. And they basically were like, well, by the time we get everything, it's going to be too expensive. And it's a new market for me. So it's like, how do I either price differently? I mean, I really have to go back, look at my pricing, if there's any way I can negotiate my pricing, because I know they have to consider shipping and customs charges. So I'm mindful of that, but also really letting them know that this is a product that's really premium, I mean, it's something that people are willing to pay for. But they just have to give it a chance, and they have to understand the brand. So I guess I have to convey more about my brand and everything in terms to justify my pricing. Does that make sense?
It does. And there are contracts that you can put in place in terms of your pricing. So even if you're selling to a third-party vendor, there are contracts that you can put in place that says my products are not supposed to fall below this particular threshold, the pricing threshold, or I don't want my prices selling above a certain threshold. For instance, and then you could completely restrict and say, I don't want my products being sold on certain platforms. Like Birkenstock does not sell products on Amazon because Amazon is known for a lot of fake products, right? So they do not want their brand being associated in that space. So there are things that you can put in place if you speak with your legal team in terms of contracting. I know a lot of small businesses, we have invested so much, and we're looking for that return on investment as quickly as possible. So we tend to overlook certain things. But if you're building a brand, a long-term business, something for longevity, and you're building a brand, sometimes those are things that you have to consider and say, you know what, I'm willing to take it a lot slower because I'm building a brand that is long-term.
Yeah. I'm not that I'm not so concerned about the difference in pricing, because I kind of choose carefully who I sell to, and I think the market will dictate whether they can charge that price or not. So and it's the difference between a couple of dollars. And actually one of the stores was telling me that people have figured out that they're the lowest price, so they're selling more. So because Dominica is very much a price market, let me tell you, a couple dollars makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does.
So I'm okay with that, but I mean, I'm just thinking of in terms of wholesaling to export people, and they're telling me it's too expensive. Now my products are generally more expensive because they're handmade. I'm a small scale manufacturer, so I just want to convey it though in a way that they're premium products too, and people are willing to pay that price. Would I offer them I don't want to discount my services, my products, but I want to get into the market.
Yeah, so the strategies that we can do along that line, but again, and I know Tamara put on a lecture on this stuff the last time we had a session, and literally it's about building that brand, right? If you're building, what is your focus here, Terry? If I'm building a brand of a particular quality, circumventing on my pricing or the value of that product, because if I begin to undermine the value of the product, that's a downhill. That's a downhill trend right there, right? That's a slippery slope. We don't want that. If I'm establishing a brand of a particular value, my goal here is I'm going to show you some things later on when we talk about building that brand for longevity and how it affects your pricing going forward. Let's say you start pivoting in your business. Let's say you start producing other products. If you're known for producing a value brand as opposed to a luxury brand, or as a confusing market of luxury, you don't brand them properly, or as Andrea said, you don't segment your products properly, then you're going to have a challenge. Right. So you got to be very, very careful if you're building a brand that is a luxury brand because your products are handmade. It's the same thing with Roland, you know, and I don't think he has a choice in this matter because he's forced himself into a luxury market because of the quality of the stuff that he's producing. Ayola, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good morning to everybody. I had 2 points I wanted to make, but before I go into them, I want to touch on what Terry said. I am actually a customer of Terry's. I use her deodorant, and when she was speaking to, you know, going in the other islands and having some resistance, I think this is just my suggestion as a customer and somebody who's experienced her marketing efforts on Facebook, especially. I think what you would have to do, Terry, is do a lot of marketing to the persons in that particular market. For example, if let's say you get your products on the shelf, you know, have them post, you know, a poster on the door or an area where they usually have information. Because I think what happens is there are many persons like myself who are looking for better alternatives to products that we use, okay? Like deodorants, like toothpaste, people are getting into charcoal toothpaste and those types of things. But we may not necessarily know about you. So like, for example, if I were a friend on Facebook or had access to your Facebook posts, I probably would not have known about your products, even if I may see them on the shelf in Dominica because I just buy Dove. That's what I was using before. So I think if you have an educational aspect to your marketing where people see, okay, these are the benefits of using your, be willing to buy it. Because if some people, if they don't know you, you may have the greatest product. If they don't know you, they're just not gonna check your stuff. So that was my point. Terry, in terms of me, I work at a BSO, which is the Dominica Export Import Agency, but I also have a business myself, which is a service-oriented business. I'm the information officer at Dexia, but I have a consultancy. I'm doing public relations and communication. And I just wanted to reiterate what was said about value and pricing, because I, for example, want to scale up my business and have been looking into a course that this woman who works with PR persons, she's like a coach for publicists, so to speak. And she offers a course. And what she did is she limited the time of year that she offers her course. So she offers it twice a year, I think in April and like October. And she also limits the number of persons, right? And she has a wait list. Her course costs about maybe 3,000 US dollars. And she has options for you to pay monthly or in one full payment or 2 payments or whatever. But because of that, there is no, you know, shortage of people wanting to take her course because she has made it seem so valuable. One, by pricing it as high as she has, and 2, by limiting the time frame and the number of persons that can enter. So people would actually save up money. You know, that's one of the things I'm trying to do. I'm saving my money so I can do her course. And she has not reduced her price to say, okay, I don't know if these people can afford my service because they're small business owners, they're single parent household. I don't think that comes across her mind because she knows the value that she's going to offer to these persons, where she makes it look like, okay, this is not a money you're spending. This is an investment you're making in your business, where after you spend that 3,000 US, you're going to be charging more to your customers and then you'll have, you know, a return on it. So pricing is really about the value that you offer to your customers. And if they feel that the value is worth it, even if it means delayed gratification and saving money to buy your product, they'll buy your product. And my final point is, I don't know if it was mentioned in terms, because this is a training on e-commerce. And I don't have an e-commerce per se. Well, maybe I do, because based on past presentations, I think it was mentioned that you could do e-commerce on Facebook and whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be a website. So, or a transaction on PayPal or Cash App or whatever. So with me, when I have clients outside of the Caribbean, I charge them based on their currency. So if I have a client in Dominica, for example, and I charge them 500 EC for something, if the person is in, and if they're in the UK, I would charge them 500 pounds. So sometimes you have to, as a business owner, you would have to maybe make changes to your pricing to kind of have, I guess, a kind of a balance because of the market. So as much as I mentioned about the lady not caring about, what issues her customers have, and, they have to do what they have to do to afford her products, the reality of my situation is in Dominica, most of the people that I would target, I do a lot of publicity for persons in entertainment, singers, songwriters, bands who don't really make that much money from what they do creatively. They maybe have a main job and that's like their side hustle. So in charging somebody in the US rate, I would then kind of make that balance between the two currencies. So that's something that some persons who are here who are maybe offering a service could also consider, because you don't necessarily have to have one price fits all. Depending on the service you offer, you can charge according to the value you're going to provide, the project scope and all those kinds of things. So that's what I wanted to contribute.
Thanks, Ayola. Very good. So let's jump on and so pricing analysis. When we start selling online, right, there's certain risk factors, and the risk factors that we need to take into consideration, even as we do brick and mortar, but often we don't. Because the small businesses, as I said earlier, we think seriously about our return on investment as quickly as possible. Because most of the time we've invested everything trying to get our businesses going. So labor costs. What is the cost of the labor that's inputted into producing the product or service? Material and production process, the impact in the environment. Now, typically, I know this environmental impact is not a big factor in the Caribbean. It's still not a big factor in a lot of places. But regulations are being put in place currently that are going to impact your pricing based on the impact that your production has in the environment. Not so much a service industry when you're looking at a consultant or a marketing agent or somebody like that. But if you're producing products, again, somebody like Terry or somebody like Wayne who are producing products, the environmental impact is going to play into this, right? Marketing, the cost to build that brand or to sell that product or to reach the consumer that you're trying, market that you're trying to reach. Logistics and transportation, especially if that transportation is on infrastructure that is poorly developed. Take, for instance, farmers in St. Vincent, Jamaica, Dominica, where feeder roads are poor and you're moving produce from farmlands to market. The damages to products before they get to market has to be accounted for. Those are risk factors, right? Operational costs. Operations is one of the things that we typically don't think about. And this is one of the points that I think Leighton was making last week or the week before about having systems in place. Systems are part of your operations that help you to streamline the day-to-day. Critical components when it comes to pricing. I'm going to run you through a scenario now when you're selling a product online. This does not necessarily speak to the service industry. I'm going to jump in with risk within the service industry after this one. So, come on. You're selling a product online. Terry, Wayne, Roland, remind me anyone else who's in this space. And a customer places an order. Even if this product is stored in your store, in your factory, or wherever you store your products, there's a warehousing cost to that. That product is taking up space in that space, right? So let's say you have rent that you're paying. You break that rent out per product. It's a process. Then you have transportation that's trucking it to this customer. If it's received damage, that's a risk. That's one risk within this scenario so far. If it's received damaged, this person reach out to customer service. That customer service may be you. So that means that is your time. If you're outsourcing customer service, then that's the price that you pay for customer service. That has to be, all these things now have to be added to the cost of that product. At your pricing it, the cost, what is this costing you as a producer? So I have the customer service labor. Product is okay, and it moves on. And there's a freight cost associated with this, right? And again, I have trucking here, right? But if in the first point here, trucking, this could be you transporting this in your vehicle. There's wear and tear, there's your insurance, there is gas, there's your time, all of that involved. Trucking, this product is returned. Let's say the product isn't good and it has to be returned from the customer. There's a cost in returns. Typically, when you sell in brick and mortar, if somebody buys something and they don't like it, and I know this is I don't know how to label this. Like customer service in the Caribbean could be very sketchy. Typically, you buy something in one of the stores, they don't tell you, there's not a explicitly stated return policy. And very often people don't return stuff, even if they're dissatisfied with it. And then you return it, they tell you, oh, it's only for exchange. There's no refund. That could happen. When you start selling online, this specific scenario here is for when you're doing e-commerce. If there's a return, that product, if the product is damaged and there's no return, but then you have lost the product. But if there's a return, then you're now paying for that stuff to be returned to you by trucking, free to get it back to you. If you're going to re-warehouse it again and then resell it again, there's a cost. And if you're going to resell it, you got a package. So these are all, this is the process and the cost that is involved in taking a product from your production into the hands of your consumers. Right? So there are factors here, there are risk factors that we currently do not consider, or you don't need to consider when you're doing strictly brick and mortar business. And this could drive the price of your product way higher. And we're thinking, all right, my product is perfect. It's perfect for you. Like Terry, you would have produced your deodorant. It's a beautiful product. It's worth its value in gold. When it gets to the consumer, and the consumer have an experience with it that is not favorable, where they have an allergic reaction, and they reach out to you. Where is the compensation in this? That's not something you could have calculated for easily. There's a risk there. We have to cater for risk factors when we do an online sale. We should be doing it when we're doing brick and mortar, but it's not often covered. Yeah. When you sell on certain platforms like Amazon, depending on the type of products they have, and depending on the agreement that you have with them, there's no refund returns. Refund, no return. So you would say, you said to the customer, I'll refund your money, but keep the product, because the return process is so expensive. Right? So these are things that you now need to take into consideration as someone who's going online to do business. My next slide goes to this idea of how you position your stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of extra costs. Terry.
One thing before you jump on further, Gilbert, could you just go back to the slide before with that chart? So one thing I just want to highlight here, guys, just bringing it back home to e-commerce a little bit. One thing that you will notice here is that there's a lot of risks that come with product sales. And, at different points in time, we sell different types of products. You incur different types of risks. What I just want to throw there to you guys is that in your thinking, as you're conceptualizing different adjustments for your business through the program, one of the things I will say is that if you guys have the ability to sell digital products you'd have lessened your risk significantly because there's very little to no return. There's very little to no logistics. There's no service delivery required. It's one of the easiest business models in e-commerce to execute digital sale when you're selling digital products. So if it is that you guys are able to conceptualize digital products as part of your product offering, you will realize that you have far greater ability to charge based on simply the perceived value of your product, and won't have to manage much of the risks that come with that. So that's why I just throw that in as one of the thought processes that I was going through when I was listening to Gilbert speaking about the different things to consider when doing your online sales. Back to you, Gilbert.
Yeah, thanks, Leighton. But again, so Leighton just mentioned a business model, right? Selling digital products. But even that now comes with risk. And I know Leighton mentioned this, I think it's last week, and I know he's going to mention it again about one of his clients who sell digital products, right? They sell Excel spreadsheets. Now, how do we stop someone in this world where everything is shared, where people share everything? How do I scale a business like that if I'm selling a digital product that is easily shared? There's a cost that is added into this that allows it to be secure without being restrictive to the person who is assigned to, is licensed to. Difficult process, but there's a process and there's a cost to it. So we have to take these things into consideration as well. There's always risk. Again, the idea is the risk has to be accounted for. Right, so take a careful look at your business with your BSOs and go through the entire process and see what your risks are and then price for it. I'm not saying this should not be a deterrent for you selling your products. I'm saying you need to protect yourself, you need to protect your business. So this is one of my favorite things to do when you look at this and we talk about what this is valued. A lot of us had experience with these type of shoes in the Caribbean. I know I did growing up in St. Vincent. And I'm going to ask, what do you think, or what would you have paid for this in one of the islands? And I'd like to hear people shout their numbers, putting your numbers up. Anybody in the chat, in the group had experience with this type of shoes? How much would you have paid for it, or do you remember how much it would have cost? $15 EC from Joseph, $20 from Portia. Victoria.
Why so little, Joseph and Portia? Just 15, 20. Why would you pay that for that?
Emlyn, $20 EC.
Because of the stigma that was placed on the shoes, it's called a dog muzzles.
Emily, $10 EC. Who else? Come on.
A dog muzzle. I've never heard that one before. Are there any other names for this type of shoes in your respective countries, guys? What's the perception of the shoes?
Tonkasal in Grenada.
It's
$50.
Cha-cha-cha.
Cha-cha-cha. Jari in St. Lucia.
Oh. It depends on who is selling the shoe, to be honest.
$20, $30. Natalie says depends on who's selling.
It could vary from $30 to $100 and something dollars. So if you go to the boutiques where you know they're gonna sell a more high-end product, that exact shoe that we're gonna get in like the Syrian store will be triple the price.
This exact shoes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I always said maybe now, but back then the shoes was worth very little. $12, pay $12 for it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was cheap, easy. Okay, so this same shoes being sold by Celine, this is $239 US, and it's on sale. Do you now understand the again, I'm speaking more specifically to Terry because Terry was most recent online. Understanding who you're selling to, understanding the value of what you're selling and building a brand around it, right? So Celine would have taken the time to build a brand. So they could afford now to take, like Terry, like if you choose to build your brand and later on you choose to add other products to your line, those products can maintain the same value based on the brand that you've built. It's an investment, yes. All right. So pricing is a mix of science, art, and psychology. And I hope from the discussion that we've had so far, you'd have seen that. So the science would be, I need to understand what are my costs. What is the cost for actually getting this product to market? That's the science. The art and the psychology now is how do I market it? How do I position it? I'm going to jump over now to my spreadsheet. One second, let me just get my sheets ready. So this is a spreadsheet that I'm going to be sharing with everyone. I'm going to send it over to Ramon, who will then share it in email. So this is a table that is already formulated. All right, this was designed, I can't remember the company's name now, but what I did is I took the time and I changed up some of the formulas to best suit us in the region. So let's look at cost-based pricing. Again, what I'm doing here, like some of these options here for if you're doing business online, this is e-commerce, or even if you're doing brick and mortar, we look at what the credit card charges are, the online, the cost to you as a vendor, as a seller, as a merchant. You're selling a product and you're accepting credit cards, almost standard. There's a 2.9% charge from the credit card company plus a 30%, plus a 30 cents, right? So the overall cost of the product is $50 again, and you're doing a 15%. No, your hourly rate, sorry, is $50. This is what my time is worth. Latoya, are you making a comment or are you just unmute by accident?
Unmuted by accident, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so my hourly rate is $50. That's how I determine that my hourly rate is $50 an hour. And I could do this by market comparison. I can just say, well, I'm making dresses and the value of my time making this dress is $50 an hour. But you have got to pay yourself at least, at minimum, a living wage, right? If you're not making your own products and you're going out into the market looking for a job, what salary would you be looking for? What would satisfy you? And I do understand, we need a benchmark, right? So that's your benchmark. I'm going out into the market. I am looking for a job. This is the salary that will satisfy me. Even if when you get back to your business, you're going to discount that as an investment in your business. Let's say I go out and I say, the market is willing to pay me. If I go out to look for work with someone or other company, I want $100 an hour. But I come back to my business and I say, my business cannot afford to pay me $100 an hour. So I'm going to discount my rate, but it has to be a living wage. And that living wage is $50 an hour. The other $50 I'm investing in my business and I keep a track of it. Because the day that you say you get to a point where an investor comes along, your business now becomes something that is investment worthy. You want to keep a track of all of these things, right? This is typically my hourly rate, but I've discounted it and I've invested $50 an hour into the business. I keep a record of that. My incidentals, this is where I list my risk. I list it as a percentage. And I say my percentage is risk is 15%. That would take care of my insurance, that would take care of my returns, that would take care of damages, that would take care of theft. That would care, and again, majority of the theft in your lost in an inventory is usually from inside of your business. It isn't someone walking into your store and actually picking up something off the shelf. Is employee taking products home. All right. So again, I'm going to share this with you. So you're going to plug in your percentages and it's going to do all the calculation for you. But let's break it down even further. These lines are adjustable. So when I get this over to you, you're going to be able to adjust the lines. You're going to add space. You're going to add different line items to get to your actual cost. Go ahead.
Can you zoom in a little bit for these numbers? They're a little bit tiny.
All right, cool.
Yeah, much better.
I give thanks. So here we go. Linen dress, material, the fabric, the zipper, the buttons, the patterns, cutting, everything else that you need to add into this. Let me show you. I changed the price. I need to restart. That's gonna happen now. See, it would automatically change for you. So when you get this spreadsheet, whether you want to work on this with your BSOs or by yourself, the formulas are built in. So based on your fabric, based on all of the material necessary for your production, you could plug them into this area of the spreadsheet. Packaging costs, whether you're using tissue paper, plastic protection, mailing box, a promo card on the inside. That goes into the cost here as well. Your shipping costs, depends on where it's going. Sorry about this, let me open up this. All right. How many hours it took you to make it? 1. So at the end of the day, you see what your cost is. Yeah, this is your cost. And then we have the markup. Right? You have other products below. Same procedure. Go through the process. And this is very simple. This is a very simple spreadsheet of costs and base pricing. Competition-based pricing. So competition-based pricing strategy uses competitors' pricing as a benchmark. Again, we understand the risk involved in this. When you're making a comparison, you're unaware of what the other companies' material costs may be. They may have economies of scales, which means they could produce a lot more products at a much cheaper rate than you can. The fact that a lot of their stuff may be factory made whilst yours is handmade. And you have to play into that value of your product as well, right? The fact that yours is handmade. The fact that I'm traveling to Dominica and I'm traveling to Dominica and I'm buying deodorant in Dominica, made by a woman's own business in Dominica, has value to it. It really does, right? So I am willing to pay a premium for that product. I'm willing to pay a little bit more for that product because I'm willing to support a local business owned by a woman. So even as we're doing competitive based pricing, so your competition is $12 and you're saying your price is 13, your price is an 8% increase in that, right? But still, you cannot just give me a competitive a price based on your competitors. You still have to come back to spreadsheet one and tell me what is your costing. What did it cost you? So even if you go over and you see your competitor as if $13, if it costs you $15, you pricing at 13 means you're losing straight out the gate, unless you're looking to capture market, which is where we go down here with in terms of penetration pricing. I am trying to get into the market hard, and I'm trying to, this is a formula used by a number of marketplaces, particularly Amazon. You put a product on Amazon and it starts selling well. Amazon has access to all of your analytics. How much product you're selling, who is buying, what time of the year they're buying, all of this stuff. Then what they will do now is that they will reproduce this product and they would sell it right alongside yours at a lower price. So they're now saying, okay, I see what my competitor is doing, but I'm going to do what is called market penetration pricing. I'm going to lower that price and I'm going to penetrate the market, drive my competitor out of business. Then I become the sole seller of this product. Then I could elevate my price. I could take my price double to what my competitor had. All right. So there is a formula for that as well. So we go back to competitive. Cost plus. Cost plus pricing strategy focuses solely on the cost of producing your products or service, is also known as markup. So what is my markup? This applies to the cost plus method. Add a fixed percentage of dollar amount to your product and production. Relatively simple. All I'm doing to you for this is presenting you with a tool that allows you to experiment with these prices, all right? The key components here are not within this tool. This is just a tool. This is like a hammer. At the end of the day, you have to know, what am I nailing? Is it galvanized? Is it concrete? Is it sheetrock? Those components that you need to understand is a market, my target market, my branding strategy, my vision, my risk. What are my risk factors? I need to understand all of these things before I start applying them to this tool. So as happy as I am to share this with you, it is really critical that we understand what those components are. Are there legal fees involved? Like I spoke to Terry about a contract for her products. Right? If you're selling online, we have added risk of user data being protected. What are the risks that are involved in me selling my product in this new space? And you have to remember, when you choose to sell in e-commerce, there's little you can do in controlling who now has access to your product. So even if I have a target market of, let's say, the upper 10% of the Jamaican population making between 120 and making between 500,000 and 1.5 and upwards, yes, that's my target. But it doesn't mean the person from downtown who's trying to keep up with the Joneses is not going to come to my website. So there's no limit when it comes to your exposure when you're doing business online. So you have to understand the risk factor across the globe when you do this. I think somebody spoke about freemiums. This is where you literally give away stuff. It's very similar to freemium pricing is when companies offer basic versions of products. So this is for the service industry, right? I'm trying to, I think it's Latoya. I think you said that you had a service industry, a service business where you advise clients in certain things. And here you go, you can say, well, For the first, you can get the basic aspect of what I'm doing, but it's a tease. It doesn't satisfy, again, because at the end of the day, it's the experience, right, and the value that you're delivering. It doesn't completely satisfy what this costs, and maybe it is totally satisfying. And I'm so happy what I got as a premium that I want to upgrade. But we have to understand, again, as a service industry, when you're doing freemium products, a lot of times there is an overall production cost. Let's say this strategy is Greater Software as a Service Company, SaaS, right? So let's say I'm doing these Excel sheets. It took me X amount of hours to produce this Excel sheet. It took me X amount of resources to put it online as a digital product, right? I know that I have to sell X amount of these products in terms of what is, let's say, subscriptions. I have to sell X amount in order to cover my production cost of the production and sale cost of that application. Anything over that now is my profit. So I gauge a lot of that, and I could say, well, I could sell, like, let's take, for instance, this very same spreadsheet that I have here. And I could say I could unlock freemium, and I could unlock skimming pricing, and I could give this to you and say, this works, because it does. But when you look at the other tabs and you say, okay, I want to know what cost and pricing. This is the strategy that I want to use. I want to use competition-based pricing. That now comes at a cost to unlock those other tabs. This is what the freemium model is like. So I give you certain aspects of what I'm doing. But if you want the others, then you have to pay for it.
Gilbert?
What?
Yeah, I think one thing I definitely want to highlight here, as well as you discuss, what leads to profit, is also the difference between gross profit and net profit. Because whilst we may look at the different things that we need to sell and the numbers that we need to sell for us to become profitable, there are two levels of profit that we have to consider. Profit at the point of sale, profit at the end of providing the services and everything that needs to come with it. So difference between gross profit and also net profit.
Right. Gross profit in this, what Leighton is referring to, gross in terms of, this is the amount of money that we have made in total. So this is the income into the company. That's my gross. When I subtract all of my additional costs, all the costs involved in getting to this point, then I have what is remaining is now my net. But I would assume, and I hate making an assumption, that if you're in business and you don't quite understand those terms, reach out to your BSOs as soon as possible, because it's more than likely you could be underselling yourself. You could be running yourself red and you don't realize it, right? So reach out to your BSOs and get some hand-holding classes and the difference between those two things. I did not mention it because I did not anticipate that I would be in a class like this with people who are necessarily in business and don't quite understand the difference between those two things.
I know we'll be touching on it when we go through the revenue projections workbook slides. But I just wanted to call it out so people understood what they meant when I said profit.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Service industry, hourly pricing. I work with a client who does hiking tours. And this is one of the things that we went through in terms of, again, it still has to come down to what is the value of my time, my knowledge. And that's another key factors that I didn't touch on and I should have touched on, especially for the consultants in this space, it's knowledge transfer. So it's me being a technology consultant, when I walk into a space, after I'm finished working with you, I would have put together a series of documents that we call knowledge transfer documents or historical assets that I would then pass on to the client. What you now passing on is lessons that you've learned over your years of experience and the process developed within that particular contract. That is of significant value. This allows that client to literally not hire you again. It affords them the ability to not hire you again if they so choose. So you have to price for putting yourself out of a job, likelihood of putting yourself out of a job when you do these things. When you as a hiking tour guide and you decide that you're going to take a few clients on a hike, you have to realize I'm now showing them paths and routes and teaching them things that next week this person could say, hey, I am now a hiking tour guide. And they could take clients on that route, just like you did. What am I charging them for initially? Bless you, whoever that is. All right. So things that you need to take into consideration when you're in the service industry and you as a contractor. It's not just my hours that I'm putting in here, it's the hours of time. Like, look at a doctor. How do doctors charge? You go into a doctor with the simplest of things, and when you walk out and you look at the bill, you're like, my God, I did not spend that much time in there. But he's not charging you for the time that you spent there with you. He's charging for his years of experience, his time in school. Okay, I've been talking too much. Let's open it up for questions again and ideas.
You touched on a very valid point a while ago. Again, it's an area that, you know, a lot of us have had challenges with. How would you arrive at a pricing based on experience? Again, as I said, you walk into the room and spend 5 minutes, and what the doctor charged you for was really his experience. Somebody who has been at something for 10 years. And I think we see this a lot in the legal and in the, as I said, the consultative space, where you will see persons have different price points based on it, you know, the number of years that the experience that they have, maybe how much qualifications they have to back those number, to support those number of years, and maybe depending on the level of specialization, what it is that they do. I heard Andrea also mention pricing tolerance, you know, how much persons are willing to pay. But is there any kind of, you know, formula around how somebody within that space seeks to price themselves and adjust that pricing as they continue to add value, whether through more experience, more certifications, or being even more specialized?
This goes back within that industry. This goes back to hold on, let me tell you who that was. I think it's Edmund, right? What Edmund was talking about. This goes back to a lot of market research. Like, I know as a consultant here in the United States, for me to come up with my prices often is just looking at what the market is currently charging. Now, I also know, again, remember, at the end of the day, you want to pay yourself a living wage. If you're working on a daily basis as a consultant, within the service industry, or even if you're selling products, right? I can understand if you're a business and you're just starting up and you're reinvesting your time and your money back into the business. Normal, I do that. But as a service person, you want to pay yourself a minimum, a living wage. What is it? I have to pay my rent. I have to feed myself. I have to pay utilities. What is my living wage? That is the minimum I'm willing to go within this space, right? And then you do the additional market research and see what the market is currently tolerating. And then I look at my career trajectory. Where do I want to go? What I want to be known for. Like here, I know what I'm known for is once you hire me to do a project, you only do it once. And that's rare in the consulting business. Very often, I'm going into the projects that other people would have failed on because my expertise is risk assessment. I would have assessed just about all of the possible risk that could happen to your business. And if there's a 1% chance that something could go wrong, I account for it. It may seem like a cost in the beginning, but not being able to operate as a business is much more expensive. And those are the things that I account for. So when I come into your business and I'm consulting with you and providing you with a service or a project, know that it's only going to be done once because it's going to be well done. I'm always looking for the risk first, and then I'm going to tell you where the opportunities are after. All right, and that comes again. So how do I price my service? I look around and I see what competitors, what the market can afford. And when again, my market is multiple. Is it private sector or public sector? All right. Any other questions? Let's go.
Just one more again, Gilbert. I mean, this is a tough.
No, please. I hope this triggers the others to start jumping in.
All right, so I heard again. I was kind of soaking up a lot of what you're saying. Because it's the learning experience from me too, guys, and we're all learning from each other, right? How would you price? So we know that I think we have a general gist of how we price value, but how do we price the experience element of it? Because I can remember myself speaking to other web developers or other persons who operate within my space. And when I hear sometimes what they price versus what I price, there's great disparity between it. And I think that maybe it comes back down to all of this value of the product that they're getting, but also the experience that the client gets when taking the product. I'll use the example of my own experience registering a business in the US. I paid $750 through an agent company in the US who charged me that to just create my business. I think they were offering things like mailing address and all those things. I don't remember if I took all that as part of the $750. But all in all, what I would say is that the value that I got from that was, of course, staying in Jamaica and having my business meet up in the US. But the experience, I think, made a very big impression on me, even more than the value. Why? Because what they did, that they had a process in place whereby they almost gave me they had a digital dashboard, a checklist. And every single time something was completed on that checklist, it would automatically show as being checked on the dashboard, and you could see almost like a percentage completion as the process is going through. And in a service-oriented business, where there are many action items to take to complete a project, it will be quite a lot to communicate and so forth. So to ease my satisfaction and to also allow me to trust that everything is happening within the time frame and will be able to meet the timeline. So I think they did a good job of using the experience to engender trust in the fact that they were doing the job and the job would have been completed within the time frame that they promised. Now, as I said, there is the value of getting the business register, which I greatly appreciated. But as I said, the bigger impact on me was more so the experience with that particular company. How do we price for experience, added experience, and so forth? Is there any thought process on that element?
You're talking about the experience inferred or the experience, your years of experience as an expert?
No, the experience that the client goes through as part of taking the product or service from the business.
Right. Again, so you're not, in my opinion, from what I do, I don't necessarily price for the experience. What I'm selling is the experience, right? I would have come up with what I'm marketing is the experience. So I'm marketing the experience in order for customer acquisition and customer retention. Like after you would have left that space, here you are today. and you're still talking about that experience, right, Leighton? If you were to look back for another service like this, more than likely you would go back to that company again.
Or at least that would be the standard of what I would expect I would looking for.
Exactly, right? So experience, trying to put a price on that experience is not always the easiest thing, right? This is where a lot of market research, again, go back to, I have to recognize Edmund and what he did in terms of market research and on coming up to his prices. I do the same thing. I'm here. And and after a while, once you have established your pricing based on the experience that you would have transitioned over to the customer experience, that is my basic, that, as you said, that is my measuring stick. I know exactly what I have transitioned over to my customers, and this is the price that I charge in order to accomplish that. I also look at the state of inflation. So I have to now charge based on if the inflation rates are increasing and customers are willing to tolerate more. Yes. But when I look at experience I use mainly for marketing in terms of customer acquisition and customer retention. So let me give you a rough example. So when I started off, Tamara, always happy to hear you jump in.
Hey, how are you? So I just wanted to add to that conversation about the experience. I think the opportunity we have is competitive analysis to really get to the experience, right? Hotels do a really good job of this. They always have a competitive set that they're measuring themselves against. Whether those people are around the corner from them, whether it's a digital competitive set, and understanding that full experience, whether it's the web experience, buying from those competitors, going through their process to understand what's that experience that Leighton talked about. What is that experience that they're providing to their customer base? And then you can use that, as Gilbert mentioned, as that measuring stick to say, okay, here is my base level of service or experience that I'll provide, because the competition is doing this, again, whether it's a local competition or a digital competition, and using that as the place to start off so you can help to provide that type of experience, and then leveraging that price as well too, right? Because as you're looking at pricing, competitive analysis also plays well into that. So I just wanted to add that.
Excellent, excellent. And the good thing, right, is just as Tamara saying, even when you're doing this, and Leighton, I know you do this in terms of your invoices, right? Your line items in your invoices, and I'm talking about the service industry here, right? When you talk about, I'm delivering this, you mentioned this earlier, I'm delivering these things all. But they're not just line items, they're not just things that you do, and they're not just the deliverables. Here's what you're experiencing, and here's what you would experience by the time I'm finished. I would have delivered this. I would have delivered these things, and they all add up. And you would have put a price on all of those. But yes, it's competitive and it's market research. You look around and you see what your competitors are doing or what the market can tolerate. Annually, like I would put my resume on Indeed or LinkedIn. I'm not looking for a job. I want to know what the market is willing to offer. And when a headhunter calls, my first thing is, a lot of them would ask you, well, how much are you willing to accept? I would ask, how much have you budgeted for this position?
Right.
I can gauge prices based on that. I can gauge my rates based on that. Now I can say, and this is something that everyone in the service industry here can do. Put out your resume. When you get called, ask them, how much have you budgeted for these positions? Right. And you're using these things not as a guideline.
I want to add to something that Tamara said just now, which I think the analogy of the hotel is a perfect example of pricing experience, because they actually benchmark the different categories of experience by putting a rating to it. You know, so you have 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, and there's a certain type of experience that you automatically expect or is delivered
Brilliant. Stephanie.
Hi, yes, I know I haven't spoken for a while, but I really enjoyed, I had COVID, but I really enjoyed this session. I really did. It really spoke to the nuts and bolts of how you're going to cost everything. And I think the fear that I get from a lot of entrepreneurs that we deal with YBTT is that when you price, they always have a fear, we always have a fear of pricing ourselves out of the market. And yes, we know what our service provides, etc., and we are giving value for your money. But the only way to really get that home is to have everything connected, and I'm getting that from Leighton as well. But for example, my social media, you have your social media platforms. You're on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Facebook allows you, if you're providing a product or service, they have those little $ when you're setting up your bio so that you can tell people from the get-go, and then the analytics of it puts you in that category. So you put $1, that means that you're less expensive than everybody else. If you put $3, it means that you're a little bit more pricey, but we expect more from you, so that your social media should be looking a certain way, a certain clean way, so that I know that at the end of the day, I'm getting value for my money, because you are putting yourself, you're investing in yourself, your own business, and how it looks and how people are going to perceive you. And I think we don't do that. That's one thing. And yes, I agree, Gilbert, with what you said about putting yourself out on LinkedIn. Tamara is a big advocate for LinkedIn. You know, I've been beefing up my LinkedIn profile. And because of that, me increasing my profile on LinkedIn and being there, being present, making the time to do that, I have a speaking engagement in March. So there are a lot of ways that we have to market ourselves, because at the end of the day, we are our biggest sellers, we are our biggest critics, but we have to constantly keep benchmarking. I've never been in agreement with undercutting the market to enter it. I think that sometimes that somehow lends to destabilizing the industry. But, you know, I know that you can do it and then eventually raise the price, but then you fall into the trap of always offering a low price, and you get people who only want that low priced item from you. If you know that you are giving bang for your buck, for example, I know that I hold my clients' hands throughout the entire process of onboarding them, getting them registered, getting them to the market, getting them on board in terms of in our local market, in terms of excellent stores, etc. I know I'm holding your hand. That takes time from me. So I know I'm pricing that. So what I have is different levels of pricing. So this is what you're going to get, and you're going to get X amount of time from me. So that way now, as what Leighton was saying before, I can now automate how my pricing is on my website if I wanted to, because I know what my pricing structure is and what I'm giving you as value for your money. And I have different structures. And another way that we can also offer our products to people as a service-based industry I'm speaking to right now, is we do workshops. You can now come and get a little taste of what you can get in that short workshop, which is now priced at an economic rate for you. And then during that workshop, we upsell and say, you know what, if you liked what you saw, and you're constantly doing that throughout every experience that you have, every post that you do, every workshop you do, every engagement you do, it takes time, but it is worth it. And yes, listen, you have to have the upsells throughout. So any invoice that I send out, their lines of service, and the client, as Cheyenne said before, you can choose what levels, and then we understand from the first consultation, which I offer at a free cost, as complimentary. So that's the hook. You get a complimentary consultation, and we discuss, and I have a time limit for it because that can go on and on forever. But I have a time limit for it. It's either 20 or 30 minutes. And within that time, I know I have to ask specific questions. And I actually send you a questionnaire from beforehand so that it helps ease the whole process. So, I mean, it just, the costing of it, it really has to be what it is that you want out of it. And as you said, paying ourselves a living wage is very important. But we also have to remember what we are doing and what is the message that we're sending to people. Because you can't want top dollar and your social media in shambles. You have no, I can't Google you. You have no Googleable presence. You can't want top dollar, and I can't find any evidence of work that you've done from before. So that's just my 2 cents today.
Wonderful. I like it. So another thing, like I said, I do a lot of volunteer work, right, in my community. A couple of years ago, I was called to help build, well, it's quite a while, maybe 15 years ago, to help build a school upstate New York in a very poor neighborhood. I showed up, did the job, send them an invoice, right? Line item, line by line, what my cost was. It was, again, I was charging as if I'm working in Manhattan. But at the end of it, I put a zero cost. So you see what my labor is worth, what I'm contributing as a volunteer. So even as I'm giving away stuff, you still get to appreciate the value that I've delivered to you. So let's turn this into you doing work for someone, and you do not want to undervalue your service. So you said, Leighton, for instance, I'm doing this for you, this is the price. I'm doing this for you, this is the price. I'm doing this, all these things for you. This is the service that are being delivered to you. This is the price. But here the discounted rate that I'm offering you. It's a great way to build goodwill. All right. So those are different strategies that you can use. Always list the true value of the services that you're delivering, because once you don't, then your value begins to diminish. So list what it is, and within the service industry, right? Let's say you, even if you're doing products and you're doing a special on your products, this is why when people are doing the specials on the products, there is the original price of the product and there's the discounted price of the product. You understand what you're getting. This product is not all of a sudden cheaper, it's just being discounted.
Just wanting to add as well, Gilbert, it's a good way, guys, living in the Caribbean, people love bar long price. People always want to negotiate, get a discount. You see, the minute you show them the real price and that it is already discounted, there's very little to no argument that can be made for further discount, especially if you have justified why you're giving the discount and how you're giving the discount. Showing it at recently I learned this. As I said, guys, we continue to learn as we grow, right? Recently I learned this, that never ever produce an invoice, never give a discount without putting it on the invoice. People need to see the value that they're getting, so that, especially if, let's say, for instance, you gave somebody an introductory rate to get their feet wet, to introduce them to the product, you need to mind that expectation from early. Not when you come again, you're going to pay the full price next time around. Again, so these things are very important for pricing consideration, pricing perspective from the customer, and just how you negotiate the price.
Yeah, and as I said, it's a great way of building goodwill. Like for that school that I did, the fact that I did all that work, showed them the value of the work involved, and then, so this is just me delivering my service in my community. The amount of promotions that I got because of that, like these people would share and say, like, this guy is brilliant. And here's how he is contributing back to his community. And they would share. It's pretty costly, but the job was done well. So anybody that's coming along not only knows that they're getting a great service, you're also getting from somebody who has some ethics to it, right? I am willing to give an introductory rate because, as Leighton was saying, you give an explanation. This is why, this is what I'm doing. Don't expect it going forward, but also there's goodwill built into all of this. It's really good. I want to touch on one other thing before I open it up fully, and it's tier pricing. It's a challenge when you sell in a local market, which means you're selling locally and globally at the same time. Could my local consumer base afford the products that I'm selling? If I take into consideration all the risk that's involved in shipping this product overseas, and I now set a price based on all the risk factors, the processes and the risk factors, can my local consumer base still afford that? I know this must be a challenge, right? When I look at Wayne, and Wayne, you say you start selling your barbecue sauces on the global market, and then you have people. We had a client out of Jamaica that was doing this, and he was selling so much pepper sauce to Philly was his biggest market, Philly and Toronto, just shipping a ton of their stuff. But then he has to cater for the shipping costs of sending it over there, and the possible return costs. Advice: create tiered branding or tiered pricing on your stuff. So, and this is relatively simple. You could just say, well, if I'm producing a 16-ounce bottle of sauce that's for local, I'm producing a 20-ounce for the export market. Or sometimes I could change the labels, the simplest change in the labels on the products. So for the export market, there's a gold label. For the local market, there's a black label. That type of stuff. I'm not telling you exactly how to do this. I'm showing ideas of how you can tier your products pricing and sizing to cater for both your local and the international market. One of the things that you want to maintain that local market. You do not want to be seen, especially in the Caribbean, where it's literally a village, right? So if you start, and this could only work for certain business. If you stick it, if you're a luxury brand, you're a luxury brand, right? It could only work for certain businesses. If you're making dresses on their particular price, it is what it is, right? Whether that's an international market or whether it's a local market, as a luxury brand. I'm going to go back to Roland. Roland is a luxury brand. It is what it is. But there's certain products that you can absolutely tier for your local market and for the international market, which means you're still catering and not being seen as a sellout. And you're still a part of the community that allowed you to grow your business. But now I'm catering for an international market by just changing certain things on my products. All right. As I said, this could be size, this just be take out one ingredient, put in another ingredient. You can say, well, all of 50% of the products in this particular product, 50% of the ingredients in this product are organic. For the international market, it's 100% organic because now I'm catering to a clientele with a much greater disposable income. And that international market can now be, it doesn't even have to be international, right? It could be as we tier the income brackets within your local market. So they're the upper 10% income earned in 10% of the country. I have a particular brand because if it's one thing with us psychologically, we like to separate ourselves. We like to say, well, we're a little bit better than the other person, even when we can't afford it, even when there's no difference in what that product is. We're willing to pay a little bit more just as we feel a little bit different about the person next to us. All right. We like to feel with a mountain. We like to feel like we're the mountain, and next to us is a valley. So that person is paying a lower price, I'm paying a higher price. I think I shared this joke the last time I was here, and there's two Russian oligarchs walking to a room. And one said, one said to the other one, I love your tie. The other one said, I love your tie too. Same tie. So how much did you pay for that one? He said, I paid $1,000. He said, you idiot. You go into this other store, you could have paid $2,000 for it. The point is, I am showing that I could afford to spend more than you. It's a measuring stick. And you have to look at your market in the same way. It's part of the psychology of pricing, right? I know what I'm talking about could seem like a lot. But for
Another
me, let me just finish up. For me, there are two things, right? You do not want to leave money on the table. And what you're building is a business for longevity. Centered around your branding, centered around your value, centered around your experiences. Go ahead, Leighton.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this question was asked earlier, but you know, as Caribbean entities who are looking for new markets to buy our products and you know, looking to export more, whether it be within the CM Caribbean region or to different to new markets in say first world countries, or rather to markets that can afford to pay more for our services. How would you recommend handling pricing across multiple jurisdictions when you are fully aware that if you sell, let's use the example of beauty services for argument's sake, or any of these natural products that a number of persons in the room are making. They sell that product locally, you know, they can sell it maybe at a different price regionally, and they can even sell it at a higher price to the North America, European markets, and even Japan and China here are consuming a lot of Caribbean-based products these days. You know, how can somebody structure their pricing to get the most value or make the most money that they can from their products when targeting these multi-jurisdictional, when they're taking a multi-jurisdictional approach towards selling their products? Is there any consideration for that?
Yeah, that's literally what we just spoke about, right? In a nutshell. I'm going to speak, the way that I opened up this session the last time we were having this for the BSOs is, and we're going to go back to what Stephanie said. Right. In the Caribbean, and it's not just the Caribbean, I think a lot of times, based on my experiences, businesses owned by minorities, we tend to undervalue our services, and we tend to undervalue ourselves. We are poor at selling what we produce. We are poor at selling ourselves, even when we're in the service industry. We're just not used to it. Psychologically, it's something that is embedded in, that is a result of our history as minorities in this part of the world, right? We're not used to selling ourselves, and we constantly undervalue what we do and what we sell and who we are. Stephanie said we fear that we would outprice our services or our products, and we shouldn't. We know exactly, once you have done the calculation, the mathematical part of this solution, take into consideration what your basic, what your living wage is, take into consideration what the cost is to produce, whether it's your good or your service, taking those things into consideration. Do not hesitate to put a good value. Understand that your product is valuable. The experience that you bring to your customers is valuable. We're in the Caribbean, we tend to be in a race for the bottom, and we cannot win that race. We do not have the economies of scale to win that race. We cannot compete with China. We cannot compete with Singapore. We cannot produce with any of these mass producing countries when it comes to our products. So from jump, our products are in a different category. Just because we cannot accomplish those economies of scales. They can produce thousands overnight. They could convert a factory in a week and start selling like if it's nobody's business. There was a challenge recently of Chinese firms coming down to Ghana, taking a look at some of their products, going back and mass producing them, sell them right back in the Caribbean market. Can't compete, right? Even with the shipping rates from China back to the Caribbean, you can't compete. So you have got to understand what you're selling and put a value on it without fear. If it comes to a point where you need to negotiate a discount, we still list the value of what this product is, and then we negotiate that discount. But you always have to account for the cost of the product, and your living wage in it, minimum living wage. Psychologically, we got to get past the point where we're thinking, I am worried about placing a price on it that is beyond the value. No, do not worry about that, right? I've heard teaching to the contrary, and it makes sense, right? They said, well, if you price your products too high, then you chase the customers away. And if you price your products too low, they're going to keep coming back. And then you can always raise your price. There's some validity to that. But we cannot walk into that space with fear that we are going to not meet the price that we're leaving the money on the table with that equilibrium, that great price for great value. Even as human beings, as minorities, we find ourselves, even when we negotiate in salaries, even when we're in a relationship, we find it difficult to ask for the things that we know we are worth. We got to push past those barriers, right? Hopefully, with the lessons that with the sessions that we're doing here, we can help you accomplish those things. Do not be, it is our job. It is the job of the BSOs. It is the job of me and Leighton and everyone involved here. Reach out to us. I have a challenge with this. Here's how I can help you, right? Here's how I can help you. Do not worry too much about that. China is creating, I think they say about 300,000 millionaires annually. They're not interested in buying the products that we tend to flock to the Syrian stores in the Caribbean for. They're not interested in buying products from what is it called, Shine or Shein, the fast fashion. They're not interested in that. People with a certain amount of disposable income, not interested in that stuff. So know that once you have thought about your market, you've thought about your product, you've thought about the value of the product, you've thought about the experience that it's bringing, you've thought about the cost of that product. There is a market once you target it properly. They're looking for authentic products. They're looking for great services. This week, or was it last week? I can't remember. I taught a class at UE on the global value chain. And going back to what Leighton is talking about, in this global value chain, we as the Caribbean, our return on investment for the level of work and the expertise that we put in and what we do on a daily basis, whether it's a service or a business, we're completely underpaid, right? And we have to see that. We have to see the quality of what we're producing. If we need to establish a regional value chain first, where we're trading between each other, so that, and the people within this space understand the value. I know in some instances, yes, some people cannot afford it. And we go back to what I just said earlier. We do tiered pricing on those products. And we target different segment of your local market, different segment of your regional market, based on how you present your product, whether it's just a smaller sizing, or changing the label, or changing a bit of the ingredients, right? There's enough market research done on this kind of stuff that we do not have to worry about in reinventing the wheel. I want to do tiered products across 3 income segment in Barbados, 3 income segment in Grenada, 3 income segment in Jamaica. And I changed my manufacturing formula to meet these market segments. I changed my marketing strategy to meet these market segments. But the point is, this race to the bottom, where we're not placed in value in what we do and who we are, has got to stop. I cannot look at a product like Terry's product or like Roland's product and not see it with great value. You got to position that on a daily basis, consistently. As Stephanie said, based on where you're marketing this and how you're marketing this on your different social media groups. And again, Leighton is going to jump into a lot of that as we go forward. How do you position this product? As you sell it, are you selling an experience or are you just selling a product? Those things are important. Just a reminder, housekeeping, if you have not completed the survey, Ramona has just placed the link back in the chat, so we can jump in there and do that. So Leighton, back to your question. So often pricing strategies when you're selling local, or we call globally, local, global, regional, is tiered pricing. That's usually the best strategy. And you, along those tiered pricing, you do marketing strategy behind that, so that we properly target those different segments. Any other questions? I know I just said a lot, and there's be a whole lot there to unpack, so let's go. Roland, go ahead.
Yeah,
You're muted. Go ahead, Roland.
yeah. In relation to the costing, the return.
You're muted again.
Yeah, in terms of the returns of goods, or a product that you mail or to a client overseas in a different jurisdiction, what is the advantage of disadvantage in terms of if you I think you mentioned it, you make some remarks to that earlier on concerning the whether or not the goods should be returned, or whether or not the client should retain the goods and you give back the client the money. But what about if you make a statement in your policy, you know, on your website, you know, there is a place where you put goods policy, returns policy, and things like that. What about if you say in your statement that your policy statement that the client would have to take care of all the expense, because I think it was mentioned that sending back the product is very costly, could be very costly. So I want to know if you make that statement in the policy, whether or not it's a good thing or disadvantage or advantage, what's the advantage or disadvantage in making that statement to you as the producer and in relation to the customer, the person who bought the product.
Powerful, powerful. This is really, really, really important, right? And I'm going to say there's absolutely no disadvantage when you're making that statement. You should. In fact, and all that, you have to make a statement about your return policy. We have a return policy. Now, this doesn't stop the person from saying they want to return it. What it protects, what it offers you a level of risk protection when it comes to your credit card company. Right? With a credit card company, when this person is probably going to reach out to the credit card and say, well, I bought this product and I'm not satisfied with it and I want to return it. Credit card companies usually ask, was their return policy explicitly stated? If I, as a vendor, can say, yes, it was explicitly stated that there is no return. There's no return. All these products are custom made. There is no return, right? Those statements should already be made explicitly in your marketing, on your website, on your flyers, however you're selling this product, state it. I know in the Caribbean, like I did some research in this, and in a number of countries we have return policy, but better business bureaus in these countries typically don't return them, don't enforce them. So I could go and I could buy a product from whatever store, Getty's Grant, and I decided to return it, and the manager is like, no, there's no return. When by law, the laws of that country says there is a minimum return date. And they could choose not to enforce it. The government doesn't enforce it, so the business don't see the need to enforce it. But the backlash of that now is customer review, right? So we have the technical aspect of it where the customer can always call up the credit card and credit card company say, well, there's no refund. But that customer in this current world that we live in can get on social media and literally tear your business apart. So I always try to talk about having a conversation with that consumer, right? Like for one of the things I suggest, Roland, is like if you sell something to somebody overseas and you have all these customer service policies and then they still come back and they say, well, I still want to return it. I would have done the calculation of what it costs to return it and all that stuff. And I could say, let me turn this into a marketing opportunity. And I'll say, sorry, Mr. Benjamin, I'm really sorry that you're disappointed in the product. Here's what we're willing to do. Please keep the product, gift it to someone else who may find some appreciation for it. And for you, I offer you a 10% discount on your next purchase. One of the things I talk about is that I'm not trying to build a customer base. I talk about this in our ERP solution. I'm not trying to build a customer base. I'm trying to build an evangelist. I'm building converts, evangelists. People want to go out and preach about my brand and my services. So we have to look for opportunities. Yes, always state what the return policy is, but always see it as an opportunity for customer engagement and build an evangelist for your brand. People are going to go out and say, man, I dealt with Roland. I was not satisfied. He told me to go ahead and keep it. And he actually offered me a 10% discount on my next purchase. So as a consumer, I am no longer turned off by my experience. I'm looking at the opportunity. My experience, the experience that I got from dealing with Roland was an added seller. Joy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well.
Just curious. I had a similar experience some time ago when we had a website up, and it turned out that the review, only one review, tons of great reviews, and this one review came in that was negative, and it turned out that it was a competitor. And we simply said the same thing. Can you give us the product? Let us see what is wrong with it. And the product was never returned. And then we offered a refund, but we had to receive the product first so we can see what was wrong with it. And the product was never returned to us.
Right. So the other option is you tell them, okay, either send me back the product or you send me pictures with the defects or whatever. If it's possible, send me pictures with the defects. But you're going to get that. You're going to get competitors, people who just don't like you for whatever reason. It could be the fact that you're male, could be the fact that the color of your skin, could be the fact that you're from Bali. They matter. People are you're going to have those experiences, right?
Understand.
But you now as a business, you've got to look at those experiences and say, how do I turn them around? And I like the fact that you engage this customer. And then you have to put, if this person is going on social media and making these statements, you have to say, well, we have gone to, don't be afraid to engage them in that space. If that's a space that they engage you in, and say, hey, is the communication between me and you. I've tried to reach out to you. I've tried to get to this product. I'm trying to satisfy your needs.
All right.
I want to make this a great experience for you and I.
All right, great. One more question.
Sure.
Is there like a turnkey solution or a template that we can use to help with these various costing systems that we run into or may encounter?
Right. So that's the spreadsheet that I have that I'm going to share with everyone. You guys can have it. It's a tool. As I said, it's a tool. You play with it to use it, right? But you remember what the key ingredients are before you start using that hammer. You have to understand the value and the experience that you're bringing. You have to understand your market and all of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah? That's the psychological part of it. I'm sending you the science part of it. Okay. The art and the psychological, again, you talk to your marketing person. Right. Always important to talk to your legal person as well to see what legal risk you may encounter.
Okay. Great. Does that go into your costing as well? Those additional costs?
Absolutely. Those are my risk factors. And I have a space on the spreadsheet for risk. All right. So it's just a percentage after you have worked this out with all the other parties involved, whether it's your marketing team, your legal team, whoever else is involved in that pricing process, then you can say, well, there's a risk involved, and this is the cost of that risk. The return risk is 15% of the cost of the product. You add it, right?
Okay.
So that even if there's a return, goes back to Roland, right? So even if there's a return, you would have priced that return into your products.
Okay.
So and I know I can cater for it. Yeah. Okay.
Understand.
Return my product because it's in the price.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else? Anyone else? I know we've spoken for 3 hours straight. It's now 5 minutes to the hour. Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you guys for another wonderful week. Really appreciate it. Leighton, any comments, anything before we go? Ramon, same thing as well. Any comments, anything?
Just one thing I was to the last, I think it's the second to last question about returns. Was a really great question. One thing to note, guys, is that once you participate in e-commerce, especially for those who will be investing in payment gateways, outside of having your website properly set up and properly secure, every payment gateway provider is going to ask you to point them to where you have displayed your terms and conditions, which outlines your return policy, as well as it will ask you about your privacy policy and how you deal with customer information. So it is expected and it is a standard for there to be a return or a terms and conditions policy around how the use of your system governs the use of your system, and it is the reference point by which you determine how you deal with refunds. You can choose, as Gilbert said, not to accept refunds and make that very clear. Once you make these things very clear, both the payment gateway and the bank will have to adhere to it. So if customers come back and say, hey, I bought this event ticket or I bought this on this marketplace and I want back my money, these people are going to go straight to the these clauses that you have set up. So don't approach these terms and conditions with purpose, and be mindful of the fact that it does impact your revenue from a return perspective where it's concerned. That's all.
All right. And anything else from
some hands up, Gilbert. I don't know if you want to take
all right,
Troy
so
and-
yeah, so we have I think Troy made his comment. Roland, go ahead.
Yeah, I just need to ask another question. So I think directly to Linton. Yeah, Linton. What's the preference, or is there any better or best in terms of website builders? We have those freestyle things. I refer to them as freestyle. We have GoDaddy, we have Wix.com, we have Wix, and I suppose there is many others. But is there any better? This one is better than that one? Because the thing is on the internet there's too much of freaksome, and then today you might see something looking good, something offering all the service, and then the other day you might see them disappear because it probably was something fake. Which one is best worthy for trusting or for using?
All right. So we
Yeah,
have
Linton.
I think our next module goes into e-commerce and payment systems specifically, where I will be delving into this topic. But the short answer to that is that my personal preference is WordPress, but WordPress sometimes may be a little bit more technical for the self-starters or the person who want to do it themselves. The reason why I prefer WordPress is because it is an open source platform that everybody can contribute to. But most importantly, it is the world's #1 website platform that most websites are built on. And it is also the platform that solution providers build for first. So you will find that doing e-commerce in the Caribbean WordPress is the platform that all bank and payment gateways have our out-the-box solution for. Every other solution requires you to be like a custom work, which means that your integration cost is going to be very expensive, take a lot of time, and sometimes based on the platform, it may be very well near impossible because of the restrictions that come with that platform. So the short answer is WordPress is my go-to, but I know it can be for self-starters if you have a little bit of technical base. But most times persons tend to outsource the work. But as the next module, we'll be going deep into that. So I'll reserve majority of my comments for that. But you can go and research WordPress in the meantime. For the Caribbean, it's the best option. In the US, there are a lot of options that make it very easy, and that's the benefit of existing in these first world markets where e-commerce is concerned. In the Caribbean, it's a little bit more restrictive, but there are solutions that work.
Okay, thanks a lot. So you say there's a module that will deal with that, right?
Definitely. What we're covering now is the foundational information that you must get to even start applying the e-commerce strategies. Because at the end of the day, you can apply e-commerce to anything, but if you go into it with nonsense, you're gonna get nonsense out. You get me? So these two first modules, strategy and pricing, are preparing you guys to ensure that you have made the right considerations around your product, because at the end of the day, this is a business course, right? It's a business program. And you have to get the core business concepts right before you can get the e-commerce ones right. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Roxanne?
Yes, sorry. Just a question about can we get a listing of what topics we're going to discuss every week? Just so that I have an idea, right, in terms of pre-planning. And then the other thing is, will we look at shipping? Shipping is a large element of the costing for us. And I think that there's an opportunity for us as a group now. We have more than, I think it was 50 or so companies from the Caribbean in this grouping. It might be a really good opportunity for us to do some lobbying for better shipping rates out of the Caribbean. So I'm hoping we can look at that as an area. I mean, one of the key things for Shop Carib is that when we have to get products to customers in the other Caribbean islands, the things have to go to Miami or to up to the US and then come back down to the Caribbean. So it's two things: it's the cost of shipping as well as mechanisms and the logistics of shipping, if we can bring some influence there. What's that?
So I'm doing a full session on logistics. So you can expect that session coming up soon. What was your? I can't remember. What was your point again?
The list of what topics.
I thought that was sent out by Philip. If it wasn't, I'm going to get him to send that out again.
Thank you so much. Forgive me if it came out already. Sorry.
No reason to be forgiven. Nothing to be sorry about here at all.
That should have been sent in the email with the module. So it would have been in the very first email, but I can send it out again. That's not a problem if some would have missed. While I'm here as well, I just want to urge people as well to fill out the survey that was sent out. It's a completely different, well, it's not completely different, but it focuses on different aspects from the initial expressions of interest that you have to fill out before. Some of the questions are the same, however, some are different, and there are additional questions that we need urgently. So if you can fill it, it will take literally 3 to 5 minutes. If you can get that done as soon as possible for us, we'll greatly appreciate it.
All right. Thank you guys again. Thanks for being here, for taking the time to attend this session. Really appreciate you guys and what you're doing within the region. As I said, my interest and my investment in the Caribbean is heavy, and I love this aspect of it. This is where we develop our regional value chain and start placing greater value in what we do and who we are. See you guys next week. Thanks again.